Nick ATF here from the GBK Boys, wanting to let you know about our promotion. You can win your very own Jasmine Contois glitter sketch with Acrydis frame. Did you know it's actually free to enter? The link will be provided with this video, and while you're there, check out some of the GBK Boys gear while you're at it.
Today we've got a nice surprise for you guys. We have Jeremiah Scott and Brendan Stenson, who are both admins over on the Marketplace Facebook group. What these guys have done is put together a Garbage Pail Kids Marketplace almanac. And again, we're going to get in and have a little bit of a roundtable discussion with them. Can't thank you guys enough for joining us today.
It's awesome to be here. I'm super excited about this.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I watched the first 2 episodes you guys did. Never thought I'd actually be on the show.
So let me ask you guys, how did you get to this point that you decided this is something you wanted to take on?
I think we all know, as experienced collectors here, that people will drop into the groups and say, how much is this worth? I found this in my mom's attic. Is this worth any money? And it takes a long time to explain to people what exactly they have. And when you just say, hey, search on eBay sold prices or something like that, sometimes they'll do it, sometimes they won't. And sometimes it'll create arguments between the people that are actually in the groups. So what we were thinking we wanted to do was start a place for the discussion, at least have like a basis for the discussion. It's not something we can update all the time, but just like we used to have wizard guides for our comic books and Beckett back in the day, it would at least be a starting point for somebody to know how much their item was worth. So what we decided to do is take a little bit of time to research these items or sold items, available stock for what the listed prices are, and take averages over the last 4 months and post it into a guide that we would update on a regular basis and have a regular update schedule so that at least the conversation would start. I think that this will be something that really good for new collectors jumping in so that they potentially don't get taken advantage of. But it's also, I think, a great discussion point for the vets. I think they're going to enjoy debating the different prices that we set on a regular basis. Now, does that mean that everything's going to be up to date all the time? No. But at least we can have that discussion like, oh, look at this price guide that they had, the last price guide they were posted. The Sapphire used to be for a box $400. Well, we all know that Sapphire is a lot more than $400 now. So that would be, I bet it's time to update that guide pretty soon because every 2 to 3 months we're going to be out of date. So that was the basic premise for starting it. We also want to do some features. We want to feature collectors that some people may, especially if you're just joining the hobby in the last 2 to 3 years, you don't know the guys that have been in it for the last 5 to 6, even 10 years or much longer that have been in the groups. I myself was brought into the groups by Brendan back in 2016 off of eBay, the wild, wild west of eBay. We started chatting and he's like, hey, come over here. We'll finish the deal over here. And I was like, oh my God, yes, let's do this. I joined the Facebook group. I didn't even use Facebook at that time. I had just a junk account so that I could do things for work. But Brendan actually is the one that started me in the groups. So I'm super happy that he brought me over.
And as everyone's aware, over the past 13 months, the card industry as a whole has just skyrocketed. And the way things were from when we started the group in 2014 up until 2019, the pricing was pretty much set in stone, and it was easy to figure out what something was worth based off past deals and things like that. And there wasn't really much of variation in the market in that time. There were some ups and downs, but nothing like we've seen in the past 13 months where it's just straight up and it's across the board. Sports, Garbage Pail Kids, wrestling. It's not just, one day it's up, one day it's down. Everything has changed in the past 13 months. So we decided as collectors, we needed to put something together that was a jumping off point for pricing beyond eBay sold listings, because take it or leave it with eBay sold listings. A lot of times people don't know what they're buying on eBay. You have people coming into the hobby brand new, overpaying for something, trying to flip it the next day. And at least this way we figured collectors were going to make an educated statement on what these items are worth at this time and just go forward from there.
This is going to be one of the literally most important documents for the community. So, I mean, just as a member personally, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to put it together. How often are we going to see this thing come out? Because I did report that it's going to come out quarterly. Are you going to stick to that plan, or how do you see when this publication is going to be updated or changed?
Right now, we're looking at quarterly updates, but we can update it as needed. So if the market was to tank and we'd want to update people so they had the most recent guide to reference, we could update it after a month. Or if the market was to like quadruple overnight, well, I'd want to update that too. The good thing about this is the collectors are in control of the guide. So I know it seems crazy now, but there was times when the market didn't change at all for like a year and a half, 2 years. The prices were super stagnant. So I don't want to say that I wouldn't update it for 2 years, but it could possibly go over a quarter if the market were to calm down and not be so volatile as it is right now.
The one thing I want to know about is, as far as getting this data, I know you can go to eBay and you can look up different card pricing. Do you guys have a certain way that you are able to mine this data rather than going and let's say there's a nasty nick and you've got 7 of them sold during that period and you get an average price on them? Is there an easier way to do it for you guys, or are you actually putting in all the hard work and pricing everything as it comes through?
I would say a lot of it is the hard way. Just taking the sold listings off of the marketplace. And, we do watch the other pages, Deal or No Deal, and other groups like that. The main issue with getting a living document like this created is who wanted to take the time to start it. And Jeremiah did a great job of, kind of leading the charge in this.
No, it's pretty exciting because you guys are also planning to make that almanac more. It's going to be more than just a pricing guide, correct? Like there's other things for this publication that you have down the road for it, correct?
So essentially it is going to be a price guide. I don't want it to get away too far from that. We're not going to go crazy with it. We actually just want to point people in the direction of other people doing cool stuff too. If you remember the Wizard Guide back in the day, it was primarily a price guide, but then it would also have like an interview with one of the comic book artists, or it would have like other people doing cool stuff in the industry. So it's going to be 80% price guide and like 20%, hey, we really want to feature somebody that's doing something cool in GPK, just like you guys are doing this podcast. We love your podcast. And I'm hoping to advertise that in the guide and send people to your podcast because it's super cool. I love it. If this had been like a couple of years ago, I probably would have done a feature on people microwaving their Chrome because that was hilarious and I loved it. It was super fun. And then there's people that aren't even on the Facebook groups that sometimes come from the underground, the Garbage Pail Kid Underground. If you guys don't know what that is, was a website that was dedicated to Garbage Pail Kids before like the Facebook groups got really big, and it's kind of gone the other way. The Facebook groups are really big now, and the underground is trying to reinvent itself. But there are amazing collections out there that people aren't on Facebook that I would love to share because I've made friends outside of Facebook that share. And the first one that we're going to do is an amazing one. I'm pretty sure it can't be topped. So I can't wait. I'm super excited about it to be featured. There's just so many cool people in the hobby right now that I can give at least a little bit of shine on them, then that would be great.
Do you take into consideration at all any of the pricing that comes out of Marketplace or any of the other spots, maybe Deal or No Deal, as far as that pricing goes? I
keep an Excel spreadsheet of eBay sold within the last 4 months just to create a formula for the average price. But what I have had to do was when something just didn't exist on eBay sold listings and there was no movement on it, but I know that it's super valuable, I was able to search the marketplace and deal or no deal, can't say that. And I was able to adjust. And so I wouldn't say that it's the primary drivers. It's more of like consolidating all the information into one place to come up with the best average you possibly can. It's almost impossible to be exact with what the average was over the last 4 months, but you can get it in a really good ballpark that makes people feel at least confident in that information.
Yeah, because I was thinking about a specific card, like the Ghost 10 Repaired Rex. We all love that card. I'm sure trying to find information and sales prices on that particular card are not going to be the easiest thing.
What I did was, after I created the guide with the averages, because it does take the averages over the last 4 months, is that I showed it. It was like a work in progress. I would show it to the other admins in the marketplace, and they'd say, "Oh, this looks a little off," or "This looks a little off," and we just had like a table discussion about the different things that are going on. And I'd say, "Well, I saw this sold price, and this sold price. And they're like, but I know for a fact that you can't get it for that on a regular basis. And when I looked at the actual listing itself, it was somebody that listed something probably a little underpriced and it was gone within 24 hours. So there was a little bit of that adjustment to where sometimes people listing it on eBay where they don't know how much something is, how valuable something is. And like there's 10 people in our group that are like, oh my God, if I had saw that for that price, I would have jumped all over that. So I think those discussions helped push those prices to where they should be, either when it's overinflated because people right now are just overbuying, and then we adjust for that overbuying, but like maybe tempered a little bit because of what the groups are doing, or in the exact scenario you laid out, it's almost like you read my mind, the error cards where somebody didn't know what it was worth, put it on eBay and sold it in 30 minutes because there's tons of people ready to jump on it. So there was definitely that adjustment.
And I'm just going to state one more time. That's why this almanac is like so important to our community, because you guys are like the Supreme Court judges of the community. And like, you're the ones that would have the biggest visual on how pricing is and how sales go. And so for you guys to put this all in one big, huge document, it's just wonderful. And thank you so much for taking the time to do that.
One of the things that I did when I was doing this with Brendan and Matt and Michael and stuff and Derek is that we didn't want to be the Supreme Court justices of the hobby at all. This is more about like just creating a starting point for discussion so that people can be more informed on the deals that they make. Because we're just all collectors in this together, and we're just trying to all enjoy the hobby, right? So the last thing I wanted this to come off as like the highest authority. I want it to be as like your friend that has done a lot of research and is trying to help you out. Does that make sense?
Do take my compliment, but I do appreciate the way you guys form that. So gents, let me ask you a question now that we have your attention. In the marketplace, there are specific rules that have been put out in order to help people buy and sell. Now, one of the rules is that you are to list 15% less than what the eBay sales are. Could you maybe just help the audience understand why?
So the marketplace was originally formed in 2014 to help collectors get the cards they were looking for and unable to find. It's more expensive to sell something on eBay for both parties. It's more expensive to buy it on eBay, and it's more expensive to sell it on eBay. So rather than sell it for that same price, help the buyer, who is the collector, out by passing the savings back to them and still making the same amount of money that you make on the eBay sale. So, if a $100 card sells on eBay, sell it for $90 on the marketplace, you still net the same amount, and the buyer is only out the $90. So you're both getting $90, and the fees are offset that way. So the marketplace was basically asking to pass the savings back as opposed to just taking it all for yourself. Because originally the page was formed to help collectors, amongst each other and, avoid going the eBay route whenever possible.
Quick question for you guys. If people in the community go through it and view this and they have any feedback to give you guys, is there a certain spot that they can reach you at, or, where can they reach out in order to give you feedback or suggestions in the future? What
I do know is that it's going to be a pinned post on the marketplace. There's going to be content, comments are going to be enabled. So I do want it to be a discussion point for vets, as I had said earlier. I think it's good to have discussion about these things. But if somebody were to IM me directly, as many people know, I love talking the market in general when it comes to garbage pail kids. So I would love that feedback. But as long as they're respectful and thoughtful comments, they can be made right on that pinned post until the next one is updated. So I think it'll, like I said, it's going to open up discussion, I think, especially in the first issue. And I think over time it'll become more refined. But we did a lot of research that went into this initial almanac, and I'm pretty happy that we're at least in the ballpark with accuracy. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this evolves over time.
So Jeremiah, another question that I had for you is, what is the cost in order to get this publication?
Yeah, the best part about that is it's digital, it's free. I had ran the idea by somebody, and they're like, "Are you going to sell printed versions? I want to collect this." No, if you want to print it out, by all means. It's such the nature of our hobby. They immediately are like, "Oh my God, I want the first issue," and I'm like, "No, it's going to be digital. It's going to be pinned to the marketplace. People can access it at any time and discuss it. So it's free."
So, gents, during your research while you're putting this almanac together, have you been noticing any like weird trends on anything?
Sapphire actually has been super interesting. And I know people are going to say, oh, everything's blowing up and going through the roof, but it's not across the board. That's the strange part. Boxes, absolutely. And I think the search for the atom is just driving those prices crazy right now. But the interesting part is that if you look at the sold, both in the groups and on eBay, there's a regression for the base set. And I don't know what's driving that, other than there's more availability. There's actually stock out there. There's people that maybe overspent that are ready to get out of it, and they're ready to move on from that. So I don't know what exactly is driving it, but I was actually super surprised to see the base sets creeping down. I don't want to say the market's falling out. It's not. But from where the prices originally started on the base sets, around $1,500, they've slowly crept down to $900, maybe even $850 at some points. There's also on some of the parallels I've noticed, on the lower end parallels, the 99s, the teals, the prices have come down. They started off around 50 to 60 and have slowly receded down into the 30s, and some of them aren't selling as quickly as they used to. So it's taking a little time to move some of those. On the opposite end of the spectrums, the pads and the reds are maintaining, if not growing, because of the scarcity of some of them. Some of the lesser popular characters for the reds have gone down just ever so slightly, but I would call that maintaining. While some of the more popular characters have gone up towards some of the pad prices. So there's a lot of interesting movement within Sapphire. And the Sapphire in itself, being a reprint of Series 1 and 2, reminds me a lot of the Chrome market of 1 and 2. And Brendan actually has a ton of experience in the Chrome, so I'm going to kick it over to him for that.
I noticed in the end of the first quarter of 2020, Chrome prices started going absolutely crazy, which was a little upsetting to me because as someone who has opened a ton of Chrome and sold a ton of Chrome over the past few years, I definitely missed the boat. So I definitely don't have a crystal ball about the marketplace because I cost myself, I'm not kidding, tens of thousands of dollars selling when I sold too soon. But I did have a lot of fun opening. So the content is just not there, meaning there's no boxes left of Chrome. And it seemed like that was going to be a product that would never end. You were able to buy Chrome 1 hobby boxes for $30 to $40 for years. You were able to buy Chrome 2 blaster boxes for under $10. You could open 100 of them and, sell your hits, make your money back, maybe. And that's kind of how I was, treating Chrome for years. Chrome was fun to open. It was cheap. You had really nice looking hits. The really good hits, the superfractors, were about $500, and the hits less than that were coming in 100 or less basically. And then all of a sudden last year, superfractors were going for $3,000. John Pound autos were going for like $400 that had previously been going for like $60. And I'm looking at my shelf that was basically unloaded in the beginning of 2020, and I'm like, wow, I never saw this coming.
Can I ask you actually something specific about Chrome? It's Chrome 1 golds seem to be the one thing that I cannot get my finger on. They seem to be hovering between 40 and 50, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing them now selling for 70 plus. And like, from your research, where do you see the Chrome 1 golds going?
Chrome 1 gold was always underpriced. There was no reason for Chrome 1 gold to sell for the pricing it sold at, because in Chrome 2, and as you all just saw in Chrome 3, well, to less extent Chrome 3 because they added other hits, but in Chrome 2, there was 2 golds per hobby box. In Chrome 1, there was 0 golds per hobby box. You were lucky to get 4 or 5 in a case. So the fact they were selling for like $15 for years made no sense to me. Other than Adam and Nick which would sell for, a decent chunk of money, 200-300, back then. Everything else was just people trying to get their money back on the case of chrome they just bought for $500-$600 and hit 4 golds in. It's just the hits just weren't there with Chrome 1 in the volume that they were in Chrome 2 and especially Chrome 3. I think Topps adjusted based on the need for more hits to sell the product, because Chrome 1 and 2, by all standards, did not sell well. They were all aftermarket purchases. The initial 3-month run of the product, there was so much of it left over that you could just buy it at discounted prices left and right. So the hits, especially for gold of Chrome 1, were always undervalued. And I'm surprised that they haven't caught up as much as they have. I mean, that set should be a very expensive set to build because, like I said, you were lucky to get 5 and you usually got 4 in a 12-box case.
All right, Jeremiah, Brendan, can't thank you guys enough for being on. Lots of good discussion on this for sure. Going forward, you guys definitely make sure you check out the Garbage Pail Kids Marketplace Almanac over on the Garbage Pail Kids Facebook group. It's going to be pinned at the top of the group. And again, can't thank you guys enough for being on. We've got a lot of really good information. Had a great discussion on it.
Thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it. And I also want to reflect the love back to you guys. I love the podcast, and I'm really happy to be on. I love that you guys are doing this. I think it's awesome and way overdue. So thank you for doing the podcast, and thank you again for having us on.